What's up, you guys? How you doing? Unadilla proved to be very eventful for both classes, actually. Even though the winners were no surprise, what did happen away from first place was a big surprise. We're going to get into that first. But before I'm going to get into that, I'm going to start with the 250s today. I'm going to do just one video just to get it out of the way. But first of all, guys, remember, subscribe if you think that I'm worth listening to. I know Cooksey has his own connections or whatnot, and his channel has really taken off. I know I've been kind of alternating between my games, and of course, this is the first time I've done a recap in a couple of weeks, obviously, because I didn't take part in viewing Loretta Lynn's. I just wanted to wait until Pro Motocross resumes at Unadilla, and it did. But in the meantime, guys, remember, subscribe. I'll see you, and let's get into this. I'm going to put up my banner for the 250s first. There you go. Levi Kitchen wins. Bad day for Honda. This was the feel-good story of all. Jalek Swoll, first podium for Triumph. I could not be any more happier for Jalek Swoll to finally get on the podium on a bike that hasn't been proven worthy in motocross just yet. Now, obviously, Triumph is this is the first year we're seeing Triumph in this sport. And I got to say, this kind of reminds me a little bit of way back when, where they had other brands like Maiko and Bultaco and all that. Of course, I wasn't around to see that, because that was definitely before my time. Because I grew up seeing Honda, Yamaha, Suzuki, Kawasaki, and then KTM came into the fold. And of course, at that time, if you were on a KTM, you were considered crazy back then. But now, not so much. If you're on a KTM, you're on a bike that's been proven competitive and then some in this sport. So anyway, I was very, very happy for Jalek Swoll to finally get on the podium, not just for the fact that it was the first one for Triumph, but also when you consider how Jalek's year has gone, especially riding on a bike that has not been proven yet. And I have to admit that this kind of reminds me a little bit of Doug Henry going on the four-stroke full-time in 1998. And now a lot of people, and I think David Bailey was one of them, he actually had some doubts about Henry being on the four-stroke all year. Now, for Henry to ride the 450, or not the 450, but the 400 in 97, he didn't really prove it to be a competitive bike. I mean, yeah, he got a win or two on it, but the fact that he missed some of the summer with those two broken arms at Budds Creek, I think that kind of didn't really sit well or give people a lot of hope that four strokes were going to be the cream of the crop in this sport. And of course, in 2006, when they changed the division names, they did away with the two strokes and made racing 5 times more expensive, as Mitch Payton says. Or in the words of Mitch Payton, I should say. But still, anyway, as far as Unadilla goes, I was very happy for Jalek Swoll. And now I think that this is probably the ride that Jalek and Triumph were looking for themselves, especially considering that this year has not gone particularly well. Were they expecting to be title contenders at all? I don't think so. I mean, they want. I'm sure that they wanted to be title contenders, but of course, you have to find the right guys. And is Jalek Swoll a front runner? Sure, on any given day, but for a title contender, I don't know. I would not put my money on Swoll for a championship just yet. But this is what he needed for sure. And of course, Mike Brown barely won the Loretta Lynn's race after losing in the final 10th to Andrew Short. But still, for someone like Mike Brown to do that good on a Triumph, that's just a sign that the best is yet to come for them. Levi Kitchen won the 250 class with a 2-1. So did Chase Sexton in the 450s with a 2-1 as well. And I have to say that for Levi Kitchen to win this one, that was a feel-good story for sure. But I think at the same time, Haiden Deegan was pretty much in championship control mode, because the only person that can really stop Haiden Deegan from winning this championship is probably Haiden Deegan himself. And if he falls and gets hurt seriously, that's the only way that this championship is going to be let out of the bag for Haiden Deegan, because it would take a real disaster for Deegan to lose this title. But I got to say that I was very disappointed again in Tom Vial crashing. And I have to say that, and he came back for a 22nd in Moto 1, just missing the points. But he came back for a third in Moto 1, got a little bit of redemption. But I got to say that this is not the Tom Vial we saw in Supercross at all. And in terms of the same guy, I think we're seeing the same kind of rider. But the fact that he's been hit with all this kind of adversity is kind of making me think that Vial is ready to leave the 250 class behind and go to the 450 class at least next summer, or perhaps in 2027 or 2026 rather. Because for Vial to win the title in the East Coast was certainly no short of an accomplishment. And I was pleased for Tom Vial, because really, I did not think he was going to win it. I thought it was going to be Deegan. But Vial really proved everyone wrong. He won 2 races and took advantage of a lot of bad luck from everybody else. Now, as far as Deegan is concerned, I did not see one hint of a bad ride out of him. And I think that he's just kind of protecting his championship, because he's pretty much got this locked up. So I did not see anything completely crazy out of him. But if there's one guy that I thought would have done a little better than what he did, it's on the pro circuit team, and that was Ty Masterpool. I thought that when I found out that Ty Masterpool was signed for pro circuit for all of 2025, I thought, okay, this is what he needed. He has one less thing to worry about. And when you get that kind of news, you tend to ride a little looser and you tend to ride a little better on occasion. You know, just like way back in 2003 when Mike Brown won the Daytona Supercross, and then he found out he was going to be a new dad soon to his son Brandon. Okay? That's the kind of news that I'm sure that Ty Masterpool was hoping for. Because if Ty rode around, put in all those good rides, and for pro circuit to just outright ignore them, that certainly could be a career killer, just like how I talked about with Buddy Antunez not getting a ride with Suzuki for Supercross in 2003. And he put in the work, and Suzuki just didn't listen. And that ruined him. And if pro circuit did the same thing with Ty Masterpool, that probably would have been a career killer too. So good on pro circuit. And I was very pleased to hear that myself, that Ty Masterpool's rides were not going to go unnoticed. Okay? Do I think Ty's going to win another one? Yeah. Before this year is over? Yeah, I think he will. He's just got to get the good start and not empty the tank like he did in the first moto at Redbud. But then again, that's a rookie mistake, and that'll come with time. So good on Ty. I'm glad that he's not going to be left out in the cold. But as far as Honda is concerned, oh man, I feel so terrible for both Chance Hymas and Jo Shimoda. Chance Hymas, your fastest qualifier, ends up with no points on the day, and he's leading the first moto and then goes down in a pretty ruddy section. Let me tell you. And when I saw that crash, I thought, oh man, that was so disappointing. That was almost the exact same spot where Travis Pastrana ate it in 2001 and eventually ended his season. But for Chance Hymas, he was very lucky to walk away from that pretty much unscathed, save for a burn on his arm from the header pipe. And believe me, the header pipe, that's no joke of a part to be hot about. I should know firsthand. I was waiting for my bike to fire up. I remember a day where I was waiting for my bike to warm up, and I ended up doing a stupid thing by touching the header pipe, and it burned my finger. And that pretty much ruined my riding day, okay? Lesson learned, okay? But still, for Chance Hymas to walk away from just a burn on his arm, that's pretty lucky for him, because that could have been a season ender right there. I would have been surprised if Hymas walked away virtually unscathed, but it turns out he walked away with just a burn on his arm, and that's no joke. But as far as Jo Shimoda is concerned, oh man, I fell for that kid, because this was the time of the year where Joe was putting in some good rides. I wouldn't have ruled out an overall win for him, but still. But for Joe, I was kind of scratching my head as to how that crash took place, because really, for Joe, that did not look like a bad fall at all. I thought he was going to jump up real quickly, but instead, it didn't work out that way. Now the word is broken collarbone. That's too bad for Joe. But Hymas's crash and Shimoda's crashes were beneficial for both Haiden Deegan and Levi Kitchen. But for Levi Kitchen, for him to go 2-1 on the day and win the overall, that's good for him, but I think he could have gone 1-1. You know why? Because when Deegan passed him, I thought Kitchen had a senior moment and went wide in the left-hand turn before the start straight, where the old finish line used to be. Okay? I thought that Kitchen going wide was a senior moment, because he probably had no idea that Kitchen was that close. Okay? But for Kitchen to take that line is like, why did you do that? Really? Because I thought that Kitchen had enough stamina in him to hold off Haiden Deegan for the first Moto win, but it didn't work out. Okay? So that's where I'll leave it. Now for the 450s. Chase Sexton wins again. Hunter Lawrence back to normal. I say that because the way that Hunter rode on that 2025 Honda 450 was probably the best I'd seen him look all year long, okay? Something tells me that maybe there's a problem with that 24 model, at least with Hunter's riding style anyway, because Jet Lawrence was proven that 24 model was competent, and he walked away with the Supercross title in his rookie year. And he had 4 wins in motocross before packing it in because of that thumb injury. So something tells me maybe that 24 model was not suiting Hunter Lawrence at all. But for Chase Sexton, winning it with a 2-1, I don't think there's anything that's going to stop him. And I'll tell you this, that with Eli Tomac rumored to be back for Budds Creek, this is the time of year where Sexton, if he loses his win streak, I think he's going to be okay with it, because Tomac's not in contention for the title. Cooper Webb should be back for Budds Creek, especially after what happened to him at Unadilla when he crashed. I thought he crashed in the same area that Talon Volan ate it back in '99, but it was not. It was a different section. But still, for Cooper Webb to not be happy with the flagging situation, that's no different. I mean, I've seen that kind of stuff happen. I don't know how his crash took place, but that was the same spot where Tom Vial went down on the first 250 moto. I think everybody knows that. But still, anyway, Cooper Webb, I thought, was doing okay. I wouldn't have picked him for the win, because I don't think Webb's very proficient outdoors, or at least not as he was in the 250s. But I was looking for a little better performance from him. Same goes for Ken Roczen. Now, Roczen, I don't know where he was, but that was not the same kind of Ken Roczen that we saw last year when he made a one-off appearance at High Point. And I thought he did really, really well then. And I don't think that Roczen was really up to par. Something tells me that crash that he had at Nashville was probably still lingering over him. Okay? But for Chase Sexton, to hole shot the second moto, that actually took me by surprise because I thought that Sexton was going to go through the whole national season without a hole shot and still win the title. Riccata did the same. Stefan Riccata did the same thing in 2000 in the 125 East Supercross. He won the title with 4 wins, but he didn't get a hole shot at all. But he didn't need to. Now, for Sexton to get a hole shot, is that important? Yes and no, especially on some tracks where passing is not really where there was very little passing on there. And Unadilla, I thought, had very little passing in the race, unless you got very, very creative. So I would venture to think that Sexton is pretty much the cream of the crop. But for Hunter Lawrence, I think he is back to normal after getting on that 25 Honda 450. And the way that he rode should be proof enough. Okay? But still, for Cooper Webb, or I should say, I'll get to Webb in a little bit, but for Hunter Lawrence to put in a performance like he did, good on him, okay? I thought that was probably the best he looked all year. Not going to lie to you. But for Cooper Webb, he should be good to go for Budds Creek. Do I think he's going to put in a better ride? Certainly. Would I put him for winning a motocross? No. I think his time in motocross is pretty much done. Because I think Webb is kind of like Chris Gosler. He's good in Supercross, not so good in motocross. And I don't know. We'll see what happens when we get to Budds Creek. So anyway, guys, thanks for watching. And remember, subscribe, and I'll see you all for Budds Creek next weekend. Two to go. See you all later, folks.